The news broke like a lightning strike, sudden and impossible to ignore. Within minutes, social media feeds erupted, trending hashtags multiplied, and the world seemed to pause, glued to screens that had been silently waiting for another revelation in the ongoing saga. An anonymous prison insider, claiming direct knowledge of the events, alleged that Diddy had made a secret call, one that, if verified, could have seismic consequences for his reputation, his legal standing, and the millions who followed him. The source spoke cautiously, insisting on anonymity, but the details were enough to send journalists, influencers, and fans into a frenzy. According to the insider, the call was not just brief or routine. It carried an urgency, a tension that hinted at desperation or something far more calculated. The leak suggested that the call had been made under strict surveillance, recorded inadvertently, and somehow made its way out of the confines of Fort Dix prison walls. Experts immediately began dissecting the implications, while fans tried to parse whether it was a simple misstep or a deliberate maneuver with hidden motives. As the day unfolded, every news outlet seemed to compete for the fastest report. Screens lit up with captions, "Breaking, alleged secret call by Diddy leaked. Prison insider reveals potential scandal. 50 Cent responds instantly." Each headline carried a weight of anticipation, as though the world itself were holding its breath. Twitter and X became battlegrounds for theories, memes, and heated debates, as fans dissected the tiniest nuance, every inflection in the alleged voice recording, every possible hidden meaning behind words that were supposedly uttered in private. Analysts weighed in. Lawyers offered careful statements, and journalists hinted at legal ramifications without committing to conclusions. The leak was a storm, and everyone knew storms didn't last quietly. They either dissipated harmlessly or left a trail of destruction. In this case, the storm seemed ready to leave a mark that would not fade easily. The prison insider's revelation painted a vivid picture. A tense, hurried conversation, voices hushed yet urgent, the kind of call that might have occurred only under extreme circumstances. Although the content remained largely unverified, the narrative itself was enough to capture global attention. Those who had followed Diddy's career, his business dealings, and his previous legal challenges found themselves suddenly immersed in a new chapter, a narrative rich with speculation and emotional investment. The mere suggestion of secrecy in a world so public amplified the stakes. It was no longer a matter of fan loyalty or celebrity gossip. This was a moment where perception, power, and accountability collided. People speculated about who might have been on the other end, what messages were exchanged, and how such a call could change the story they thought they already knew. Amid the chaos, 50 Cent's name appeared repeatedly. He had been observing the situation closely, reportedly aware of the potential fallout, and sources hinted that he had already begun formulating a response. The tension was palpable. The leak had forced the hand of anyone connected to Diddy's world. There was an unspoken anticipation that 50 Cent's reaction could either amplify the scandal or attempt to contain it. Fans waited anxiously. Media outlets speculated endlessly, and social media threads exploded with conjecture. In a culture that thrives on immediacy, the speed at which reactions developed only heightened the drama. The insider's story was no longer confined to whispers behind closed doors. It had become a global spectacle, dissected by anyone with access to a screen. Every gesture, every comment, every tweet was scrutinized, analyzed, and interpreted as part of a broader narrative that seemed to be evolving by the second. In the hours following the leak, the world watched as the initial shockwave expanded. Memes emerged, reactions went viral, and debates raged online and offline. Some defended Diddy, arguing that the alleged call was likely innocent or misunderstood, while others warned of deeper implications, citing past controversies as context. Legal experts offered carefully worded analyses, pointing out potential violations, procedural missteps, or strategic moves behind the alleged call. Despite the uncertainty, the weight of the revelation could not be ignored. Everyone knew that the next steps, Diddy's official statement, the legal response, and 50 Cent's imminent reaction would shape the public perception for months to come. And in that waiting period, as tension built and speculation reached a fever pitch, the story cemented itself as a defining moment, one that would not fade quietly into the background. The call, though unseen by most, had already altered reality. Every person following the saga felt the ripple of its impact. Celebrities whispered in studios, fans debated online, and journalists prepared for the inevitable fallout. In the midst of it all, one thing was clear. The narrative had shifted, the world was watching, and the response, especially from 50 Cent, would determine just how high the stakes would climb. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, and for anyone paying attention, it was impossible to ignore that the story was only beginning. The moment 50 Cent became aware of the alleged secret call, his response was swift, precise, and unmistakably calculated. Sources revealed that he did not allow rumors to fester or speculation to shape his public persona. Every word, every gesture, every online post was crafted to assert control over a narrative that threatened to spiral beyond containment. In the early hours following the leak, his team reportedly convened, dissecting the insider's account, cross-referencing timelines, and considering how the claim might affect his own reputation, business interests, and influence in the entertainment world. Unlike the casual observer, 50 Cent understood that in situations like these, perception could wield as much power as facts. The delicate balance between outrage, skepticism, and strategic silence was being weighed, measured, and manipulated with precision. The world outside did not see the calculations, only the immediate reaction, which was as impactful as it was deliberate. Meanwhile, the alleged call itself remained shrouded in mystery. Details trickled in sporadically through anonymous tips and leaked statements, but no complete transcript was ever confirmed. Some accounts described it as brief, urgent, and almost frantic. Others suggested a level of calm that hinted at careful planning. The discrepancy only fueled speculation. Analysts debated the tone of the voices, the pauses between words, and what each inflection might reveal. Fans dissected the fragments, listening repeatedly, replaying snippets in attempts to decode hidden messages. Every new interpretation created waves of conversation, amplifying the intrigue, as though each listener was piecing together a puzzle that might never be completed. The world watched, fixated, aware that even the smallest detail could be amplified into a headline, a viral clip, or a social media storm. As discussions intensified, legal experts began offering their own insights. They cautioned that the leak of a prison call, if verified, could constitute a significant breach of procedure. Prison communications are tightly monitored and strictly controlled. Any unauthorized release might expose individuals to criminal liability or civil consequences. Analysts speculated on the chain of events that allowed such a call to become public, raising questions about internal security, compliance, and possible motives for leaking the information. Some suggested it could be a calculated move to manipulate public opinion, a preemptive strike in a long-running feud, or a desperate attempt to influence negotiations behind the scenes. Every theory added another layer of tension, making it increasingly difficult to separate fact from speculation, truth from manipulation. Social media continued to amplify the story at an unprecedented pace. Clips, screenshots, and quotes circulated endlessly, often without verification. Yet each post contributed to the sensation. Hashtags proliferated, trending worldwide, while fans and critics alike dissected every element with relentless curiosity. Celebrities weighed in, some siding publicly with Diddy, others expressing support for 50 Cent's vigilance and proactive response. Memes emerged, commentary videos went viral, and debates reached levels of intensity rarely seen outside the courtroom or news cycle. In this environment, perception became as vital as reality. The narrative was no longer merely about an alleged phone call. It was a contest over credibility, influence, and public sentiment. Every reaction shaped the story as much as the initial leak. Despite the chaos, 50 Cent maintained a calculated calm in public appearances. His statements were measured yet pointed, designed to assert authority while avoiding the pitfalls of emotional overexposure. Each comment carried weight, signaling awareness of the allegations while hinting at deeper knowledge. Observers noted the subtlety of his approach. He neither confirmed nor denied specifics of the call, but created a framework in which his reputation and credibility remained intact. Analysts suggested that such restraint was strategic, allowing him to control the narrative without being ensnared in the details of unverified claims. The balance between public perception, personal reputation, and potential legal ramifications was delicate, yet 50 Cent navigated it with an unmistakable sense of command. Meanwhile, Questions swirled about the motives behind the leak. Was the insider acting independently, seeking attention or retribution? Or was this part of a larger scheme designed to destabilize Diddy, provoke a reaction, or influence the outcome of ongoing legal matters? Journalists explored every angle, uncovering fragments of context, previous disputes, and potential alliances. Every discovery added another dimension to an already complex story. For the audience, the intrigue was irresistible. The combination of secrecy, celebrity, and alleged scandal created a narrative that was impossible to ignore, drawing in casual fans and devoted followers alike. In the unfolding drama, suspense grew, leaving the world on edge, waiting for the next revelation that would define the trajectory of the controversy. As the story of the alleged call spread, attention increasingly turned to the wider implications of the leak. Observers noted that the situation was no longer just a private matter between Diddy and 50 Cent. It had evolved into a complex narrative with legal, social, and cultural dimensions. Analysts pointed out that every reaction, from fans' comments to media coverage, contributed to a network of perception that could impact both reputations and professional opportunities. The ripple effect of a single incident in the digital age was extraordinary, demonstrating how quickly private events could become public spectacles. For 50 Cent, who had built his career on both artistry and strategic acumen, the stakes were clear. Managing perception was as important as controlling the facts. The insider whose revelations had sparked the controversy remained largely anonymous, but their influence was undeniable. Sources described them as deeply embedded within the prison system, possessing knowledge of procedures, schedules, and communication protocols that the general public could scarcely imagine. Their decision to leak the alleged call, whether motivated by personal grievance, financial incentive, or desire for notoriety, added layers of complexity to an already intricate narrative. The public, lacking concrete information, speculated endlessly. Forums, social media platforms, and comment sections became arenas of debate where every fragment of information was dissected, interpreted, and argued over. In such an environment, rumors gained the weight of facts, and speculation often shaped reality in ways that were impossible to predict. Meanwhile, legal commentators highlighted potential ramifications for both the leaker and the subjects of the call. Unauthorized release of prison communications is a serious offense, with potential consequences that extend beyond disciplinary measures. Some experts suggested that if the leak was intentional and aimed at manipulating public perception, it could constitute an element of a broader conspiracy, potentially exposing multiple parties to liability. Others focused on the possible impact on ongoing investigations, suggesting that any evidence revealed in the call, whether direct or indirect, could influence legal proceedings or negotiations. The combination of high-profile individuals, sensitive information, and public scrutiny created a scenario in which every move mattered and mistakes could have lasting consequences. The role of media amplification became increasingly apparent as the controversy unfolded. News outlets, blogs, and social media accounts competed to break every new development, often prioritizing speed over verification. Clips from the alleged call circulated widely, accompanied by commentary, analysis, and speculation. Every iteration shaped the narrative, sometimes contradicting previous reports and adding confusion to the discussion. Experts warned of the dangers of such amplification. Unverified claims, once widespread, can become difficult to retract, leaving reputational damage that persists regardless of eventual clarification. The challenge for 50 Cent and his team was to navigate this chaotic landscape, counter misinformation, and assert authority over a story that was growing faster than any single statement could contain. Amid this whirlwind, the public's fascination with the personalities involved intensified. 50 Cent's reputation for strategic intelligence and media savvy drew attention to his responses, while Diddy's long-standing presence in the music and entertainment industries added weight to the controversy. Fans and critics alike scrutinized every public appearance, social media post, and interview, seeking clues about their reactions. Analysts noted that celebrity influence in such situations extends beyond personal reputation, shaping cultural narratives and social discourse. In this context, a leaked call was more than a singular incident. It became a lens through which broader issues of power, loyalty, and influence were examined. Each new development fed the curiosity and anticipation, deepening public engagement. Throughout the unfolding events, the dynamic between secrecy and exposure remained central. The call itself, by nature of its privacy, contrasted sharply with the public's demand for information. Every revelation risked shifting control, while every strategic silence became an instrument of influence. 50 Cent's measured approach exemplified this balance, showing awareness that the narrative could be shaped as much by what was withheld as by what was revealed. Observers noted that in high-stakes situations involving celebrity, legal matters, and sensitive leaks, discretion often carries as much power as disclosure. As speculation, debate, and analysis continued to swirl, the story remained far from resolved, leaving audiences captivated, analysts intrigued, and those directly involved in a delicate position where every decision could alter the course of the controversy. As discussions about the alleged call continued to dominate headlines, the focus shifted to the intricacies of power dynamics within the entertainment industry. Observers noted that celebrity influence often extends beyond music or media appearances, affecting legal, financial, and social networks. In this case, the alleged interaction between Diddy and 50 Cent served as a microcosm of broader systemic structures where alliances, rivalries, and reputations could determine outcomes. Industry insiders speculated on the ripple effects. Contracts, collaborations, endorsements, and public perception all rested on the delicate interplay between truth, narrative, and timing. For fans, the drama represented a rare glimpse behind the curtain, revealing the high-stakes maneuvering that often shapes the public faces of global stars. Legal analysts weighed in on potential consequences for all parties involved. Unauthorized dissemination of prison communications could trigger both criminal and civil proceedings. Experts highlighted that intent matters significantly in these cases. Whether the leak was malicious, negligent, or opportunistic could influence charges and penalties. Moreover, any public statements made by the subjects after the leak were carefully scrutinized for contradictions, admissions, or strategic positioning. For 50 Cent, whose media persona is often tightly controlled, every tweet, post, or comment became a potential lever in shaping the unfolding narrative. The challenge lay in balancing transparency with strategy, offering enough information to maintain credibility without creating vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, the anonymity of the insider continued to raise questions. How had someone gained access to such sensitive material? Was this a singular event or indicative of a larger breach within the system? Analysts suggested that leaks often involve multiple actors, each with distinct motivations, creating a network of risk and opportunity. In this environment, credibility is fragile, and misinformation spreads quickly. Each new detail, verified or otherwise, altered the landscape, forcing those involved to adapt continuously. Observers pointed out that the modern media ecosystem amplifies uncertainty, with social media functioning as both megaphone and magnifying glass, intensifying scrutiny and speculation simultaneously. Public reaction became increasingly polarized. Supporters of 50 Cent emphasized his prudence and strategic thinking, interpreting his measured responses as evidence of competence and control. Critics questioned motives, speculating on hidden agendas or past conflicts that might influence interpretation. Similarly, Diddy's followers grappled with conflicting narratives, weighing loyalty against perceived transparency. Forums, social media platforms, and comment sections became arenas of debate, where fragments of information were dissected, interpreted, and challenged. In this digital echo chamber, perception often rivaled reality in significance, with reputational impact magnified by volume and virality. For those in the public eye, navigating this landscape required careful consideration of both immediate responses and long-term implications. Industry analysts also noted the broader cultural context. Celebrity controversies have always captured public attention, but in the digital era, speed and scale amplify both scrutiny and stakes. Events that might have remained private or contained within traditional media cycles now unfold in real time, with global audiences actively participating in analysis and judgment. This phenomenon shapes not only individual reputations, but also broader social narratives about accountability, influence, and ethics. The alleged call, in particular, highlighted tensions between privacy, power, and public curiosity, creating a scenario in which every statement, omission, or clarification could significantly shift perception. Strategically, both Diddy and 50 Cent appeared to recognize the dual nature of the situation, a crisis and an opportunity. The leak exposed vulnerabilities, yet it also provided a platform to assert narrative control, clarify positions, and influence public opinion. Observers noted that in high-profile controversies, timing, tone, and consistency are critical. Each public interaction, from interviews to social media posts, can reinforce or undermine credibility. As speculation, analysis, and debate continued to intensify, the story evolved into a complex interplay of information, strategy, and perception, leaving audiences engaged, commentators intrigued, and the subjects acutely aware of the high stakes at play. As the weeks unfolded, the implications of the alleged call began to crystallize, revealing layers of complexity beyond the initial leak. Investigators and industry observers noted that the ripple effects touched multiple domains: legal, financial, and reputational. For Diddy, questions persisted about the authenticity and content of the call, and whether any direct or indirect actions could arise from it. Legal experts highlighted that even insinuations could trigger a chain reaction, influencing ongoing investigations, contracts, and partnerships. The situation exemplified how a single, unverified incident could reverberate through an entire ecosystem, where perception often outweighed confirmation. 50 Cent's approach to the controversy drew widespread attention. Analysts emphasized the precision and timing of his public statements, noting that measured responses often mitigate risk while maintaining influence. His commentary, posted strategically across platforms, conveyed a sense of control and awareness without escalating tensions unnecessarily. Observers compared his approach to classic crisis management frameworks, where clarity, consistency, and pacing determine impact. By calibrating reactions, 50 Cent not only protected his own narrative but also subtly influenced public perception of the unfolding events. Each post, interview, or tweet functioned as a deliberate signal crafted to reinforce credibility and authority. Fans and media outlets continued to dissect every detail. Forums buzzed with speculation about the authenticity of the leak, the motives behind it, and potential undisclosed ramifications. Social media amplified these discussions, turning them into viral debates that blurred the line between fact and interpretation. Analysts noted that in such high-profile scenarios, public engagement itself becomes a force multiplier, shaping how stories develop and influencing subsequent actions by all parties involved. In this environment, narrative control requires constant vigilance, with reputational management becoming a continuous exercise rather than a finite task. Meanwhile, industry insiders speculated on the potential consequences for stakeholders beyond the immediate subjects. Record labels, collaborators, and sponsors faced scrutiny regarding their alignment with the personalities involved. Decisions about partnerships, promotions, and endorsements were influenced by both perception and projected impact, emphasizing the interconnectivity of reputation and commerce in the entertainment sector. Observers suggested that even subtle shifts in public sentiment could have measurable financial and strategic effects. For those navigating the industry, the lesson was clear. Visibility and influence entail responsibility, and controversies, real or alleged, can redefine the landscape overnight. The broader cultural resonance of the situation also became evident. The controversy highlighted the tension between privacy, accountability, and public curiosity in an era of instantaneous communication. Audiences engaged not only with the events themselves, but with broader questions of ethics, influence, and power. Discussions ranged from legal ramifications to personal integrity, reflecting the multifaceted nature of modern celebrity narratives. Commentators emphasize that public engagement with such stories is not merely passive. It actively shapes the trajectory of events, influencing decisions and perceptions in real time. In this sense, the saga became a case study in the dynamics of modern media, illustrating how information, interpretation, and influence converge to produce profound societal effects. By the end of the period, the story had evolved far beyond a single alleged phone call. It became a narrative about strategy, reputation, and influence, showcasing the intricate interplay between public perception, media amplification, and personal conduct. For Diddy and 50 Cent, the episode underscored the necessity of meticulous narrative management, careful timing, and strategic communication. For observers and fans, it offered an unprecedented glimpse into the mechanisms that govern fame, power, and public judgment. Ultimately, the controversy demonstrated how high-profile figures navigate an environment where every detail is scrutinized, every statement is analyzed, and perception is a currency as valuable as any financial asset. The narrative closed on a note that was simultaneously cautionary and revealing, underscoring that in the modern era of celebrity, influence is inseparable from accountability, and every action alleged or confirmed carries consequences beyond the immediate sphere.